Hi, and welcome to On the Couch, Conversations with Brenda Porter, where I have the opportunity to sit down with artists and those who work with artists. We talk about the work, the art, and life. Parris is originally from South Carolina, but 11 years ago, she moved to Atlanta and made it her home. She has an MA in performing from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. Her acting skills have been seen on various theaters across Atlanta. She recently worked with Amina McIntyre and Hush Harper Lab on a one-woman show about Nina Simone. And her upcoming production of Raising the Dead can be seen at Essential Theater this November. Welcome, Parris. Hello, Miss Parris.
Hi, Miss Brenda. How are you?
I am great. So I'm excited about you being with me. I did not realize that you had been in Atlanta 11 years.
Yes.
You came here to go to SCAD?
I came to Georgia to go to SCAD. That's a story, but yes. And so after I graduated, I moved to Atlanta in 2010 and been here ever since. And just hit the pavement, doing how you do. You do community work and you work a bad part-time job, and then you keep on keeping on until you're talking to Miss Brenda Porter.
Oh, if that's the ultimate goal, you're in trouble. So you actually went to Savannah to the SCAD.
That's what
I thought you would come here. Okay.
No, the performing arts department is in Savannah. It's odd, yeah. So the performing arts is down in Savannah, even though all the theaters are in Atlanta. Don't ask me why. I don't run the school. So that's where I was for 2 years. I got my MA, my master's in performing arts, and so I just been doing this. At first I was going to be a lawyer. Yeah, so my bachelor's is in political science and history, minor in history. So
and where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Winthrop University.
So what made you decide to go to Savannah College of Art and Design?
I had a best friend in high school who actually got accepted for art, like drawing art at SCAD. So when I was doing my research for performing arts schools, when I was living in Jersey with my grandparents, I was like, well, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be an actor. And so I was working with this acting lady in New York. And so I was like, well, I want to go somewhere where I also can live on my own. So I had a whole plan formulating. And so I was like, I remember she got accepted there. So that was a school. I was like, I'm going to look into that. I looked into Sarah Lawrence and somewhere else. And then, I don't know, SCAD just it just appealed to all the things. I can live down there at an affordable rate, be on my own, and do other things. It was, yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad, because then it brought you to Atlanta and not back up to New York. At least not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. So tell me about, and for those people who are watching that are new to acting, what is a path? What is the path that you took getting involved in theater? Because I've been told that Atlanta theater can be cliquish. I don't think it is, but I've been told it can be cliquish. How do you get involved in the theater here?
For me, my path was, thank God I did go to SCAD, because I did have a connection in Cartersville. Believe it or not, my career began in Cartersville, y'all. Cartersville.
What? Okay.
It began in Cartersville. I had a classmate, Morgan McCreary Brooks. Her mother and her, they ran a theater company up there. I don't think they do it anymore, but at the time they did. And I did Of Mice and Men. That was my first play I did up there. And then from there, Morgan directed something at Out of Box. And then she had me audition for Bright Ideas at Out of Box. And I got connected with Carolyn show. And then it was like, and then I did the WTP 24-hour Playwrights Festival because Carolyn picked me. And then it was serendipitous because Topher had written the play that Carolyn had. So Topher didn't know me. Carolyn was like, he goes, I don't know her. And Carolyn goes, trust me. And so that's where I met Joe Howarth Noonan. Jennifer Lee and I had already worked on Bright Ideas. Carolyn Cho was our director, and Topher had written the play, and which he written last minute. So, and then I guess, as I say, the rest is history. I just kind of worked that out of box, and then started just doing and start doing other stuff. I think I did Lake Bottom Prime would be next, and then I did Doubt, and then I started just venturing out into my own path. But yeah, that's how for me, it was Cartersville.
Of all places.
Of all places, Cartersville, Georgia. So yeah. But it was community theater for me. And then, because I believe in, you never know, if you do something small things will lead to big things. So, because I remember I was doing a small show with Matt Lupo, who's now like him, I think in Macon, he's a playwright writer. And I was doing the Fringe Festival with Markel Williams, and we were doing his play with Dan Brown, and then Heidi Howard happened to see us, and she was directing The Revolutionist, and I got cast, and I auditioned and got cast in that, and that was my first like big professional show in Atlanta at 7 Stages, doing The Revolutionist by Lauren Gunderson. So you just never know. Don't snub your nose on the small stuff. You never know who's at the small stuff in Atlanta. I learned that too.
That is true. That is true. So when will you be too big to do the small stuff?
I don't know. Because people are always like, one day, Parris, I won't be able to afford you. And I'm just like, you'll afford me. But now I'm like, I don't work for free.
Well, you really can't afford to work for free.
No, you really can't. And I understand my own worth now. The more I work, the more, heck, I just did, my last shows before the pandemic were Eclipse and Angels in America and the Cape. So I was able to really go, Parris, you're not so bad, you might have something. So yeah, I don't know when I'll be too big where I can't do the small stuff, but but right now I don't do too small, but you can afford me. I'm not equity yet.
Speaking of which, equity has the new rule that if you've worked professionally, you can become equity. Now there's a whole bunch of people who are out there saying, hey, it's just their way of getting money and getting dues, and it probably is. I joined equity probably before I was ready. I joined it, early on. I did a couple of shows, and then I was offered equity. I'm like, yes. And I wish I hadn't, because I was in my 20s, early 20s, and I then couldn't audition for everything else. And all these other people were auditioning and working, and I was like, me. Right. And so by the time they reached their 30s, they had done 85 shows. I had done 3. And so I didn't have that experience.
For me, equity, I see equity as, this is me as a person who worked in the real world. We're in the South, we're in Georgia. This is a right to work state. So I listened to a lot of older actors who said, I let my equity drop when they moved to Georgia because there was no real need for equity here in Georgia, which kind of makes sense in my head because it's a right to work state. So why would I close off myself right now when I can work small, medium, large, gigs right now? But if I decide, okay, I'm going to go to New York, or I'm going to go to Chicago, or I'm going to go to the Twin Cities, or I'm going to go to LA, it makes sense in my head to join equity because you're a little bit more protected. You're going to get the bigger, you're going to be like not a shoe-in, but you at least get the gigs that you want to audition for. At least it gives you the leg up in those cities.
Mhm.
I feel like in Atlanta, you could do equity, but like you just said, you really will miss out. Also, Miss Marcy Miller, she also said the same thing. Was like, I didn't want to miss out on the smaller and medium stuff as well. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to constrain yourself unless you're going to be, as some of my friends, traveling throughout the U.S. and it makes sense. Now, if you're just going to stay here, I'm like, well, why would I, limit myself and have equity involved in stuff that I'm like, you don't need to know that equity. I'm doing a small gig for a friend, like.
Yeah. No. So I'm union, and I'm a union believer. So there are several of my union cohorts who would be upset about that because they were like, you get the advantage of, you don't get the pension, you don't get the health care,
right.
But you get the advantage of all the advantage of equity members being
right.
in this state, union members, even on film,
right.
we get the advantage of union members working here, even if you're not a union person.
Right.
So then there's a whole conversation around, is that fair?
That I don't know. Because I'm a maverick. So I'm just like, hey, when I join it, then I know I'm ready, but I don't know why I joined it. It's like, I want what you just said. Right now I have a day job. So I have the health and the pension stuff with, the day job people. But if I decide to go, goodbye day job, then of course I'll go, well, it's time to go equity and do the big gigs and do this and make sure I have a pension and the healthcare and all this stuff. I think it's just me thinking, well, I don't need it now, but it is an option. But right now I'm okie dokie, but I know I probably will do it in the future, So I'm not like, no, I'm not equity, never will be. I'm like, no, there's benefits. There are good benefits to it. And I think you have to be ready. And if that's just not your bag, then it's just not your bag. If it's something that it's going to benefit you in the long run for your career, if this is for you doing this for real, then equity's your thing, Yeah.
So
that's my answer.
That's a good answer.
That's my answer.
You've worked at a lot of theaters in town. You've been blessed to do that. And since the George Floyd murder, a lot of theaters are making changes. And you've worked since that time. What kind of changes have you seen happening in the Atlanta theater?
Me personally, I feel like they're listening, paying attention, being mindful. Actors Express, I feel like they understood the assignment. Like their whole season was a wonderful, I mean, they were already mixed blend, diverse, all this, but it was like, they really understood the assignment, I felt like. I just feel like, I don't think people are just doing words, but people are really trying their best to hear the Black community, young Black voices, even Asian voices, making sure that we're just not blended in, or we don't just do the one show. They're realizing, not do one show, do all shows, do 3 shows. And because to me, it doesn't make sense to do an Asian show, a Black show, a Spanish show. Just do the shows and excuse me, be like, in my opinion, like Synchronicity. Even before George Floyd, they would diverse cast and go outside the box and and just colorblind cast with purpose, because I don't believe in just colorblind casting just for the sake. Colorblind for a purpose. Who's good for the role? And I didn't think about it like that. I always believe in, the best woman, man wins. And and if they happen to be a person of color, awesome. That's great, because you're going to hear the words in a different perspective. And I just think, I personally think that it's they're trying to hear. I don't expect, now, I didn't go in thinking, ta-da, everything's changed. No, that would be a fantasy. So there are some things where I would expect some like, oh, that didn't change. But I have a feeling it will in time because these young kids are serious. So if we keep the pressure on, or keep calling them out, or you said you were going to do this, but it looks like you're still doing this, and have more Black stage managers and costumers and all these things to understand Black women bodies and hair. That's very important. I think in time, but it's a little bit. I think they're hearing us and being mindful and checking themselves. I mean, it's great to see Georgia Ensemble having Candy as an assistant casting director associate over at Georgia Ensemble. That was to me the best thing that they could ever do, because that's bringing in, that means, hey, there's a young Black female voice in the room saying this one, giving them like, let's make sure we keep it diverse, mindful, so we don't cater to that audience all the time. Like, I always believe audiences do want to be pushed, even if that they were like, that didn't feel good, and then at the same time they're like, that I still come back. I really believe that audiences, I don't believe in subduing people. I believe that if I pushed you, you'll be like, thanks, I guess, so yeah.
Yeah, well, there will be some people that will walk away. I mean,
there will be, and let them keep walking, because that means more people who will appreciate what you're doing, the new thing that you're doing will come in droves. Sometimes you have to shake the tree to get the bugs out, so fruit can grow. You just don't want the same thing over and over again, because then you get stale.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want that.
You most recently worked on a one-woman show.
Yes.
As a virtual piece, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Tell me about this piece.
Okay. Yes. Okay. It's Nina Simone. Her later years, I think when she was living in Paris. So I got connected with, there's a whole story behind this too, guys. There's a whole story. And so I got, actually, okay, I'm gonna tell you the story. Okay, so. Yeah. Okay, so during the first wave of the pandoodle that we're in, Daryl Fazio emails me, and she's like, she was listening to Nina Simone's music, and she was like, I think you're the only person I can see playing Nina Simone. And I was like, I love it. We should collaborate. And she said, clearly I can't write this play. And I said, you're right. She said, who do you think could write this play? And I just went, Amina McIntyre, like no question asked. I didn't go, let me think about it, I'll tell you tomorrow. Amina McIntyre. And then, of course, I didn't realize that she and Adaya Moon have Hush Harbor Lab Productions. So all that comes with Amina. And so Amina's brilliance is like, of course, I'll write a one-woman show. And so she writes Nina living in Paris, because in the later years in the 80s, she's living in Paris. She's not as well at that time before she gets on the meds and everything, that her friends make sure that she's on her meds, so she's evened out. So this is it's before her friends and everyone gets her clear-minded, so she's able to enjoy her third tier of success. And so it's called Eunice in Paris, because Eunice was Nina Simone's birth name. And it just deals with her coming to terms of remembering who she once was and who she is. She is Nina Simone. She is she is no longer going to want to perform for $300 at the nightclubs in in Paris. She, it's like she is trying her best to grapple with who she is and where she is now. And it's and Mina and I talked about wanting to we didn't want to pop her up. We didn't want to make it a musical because I think she's been jazzed up enough, and she actually didn't like being called a jazz singer. She was a Black classical pianist. That's what she always wanted to call herself, always wanted to be. That's what I'm like, I will no longer call her jazz. I will call her a Black classical pianist, because that throughout her autobiography, she constantly talked about that and how she did not like being called that, and how when she did sing her songs, she considered herself more of a folk singer. And I was like, oh, I can see that. So just understanding, I think that's what the play is about, really understanding who Nina Simone was as a woman, understanding her vulnerabilities, celebrating her, and just really getting to know the woman, because I think that's really important. I think a lot of people know the music, which is great, but I don't think anyone really stops to really understand who she was and how lonely she was and how passionate she really was, and where all this passion and fire and anger and all this, all of it comes from. And I feel like with this one woman show, we got to really explore it. So we did a virtual reading of me as a one woman show, and singing and all of it. And it was really good. And hopefully we're going to keep developing it, and so it can be a live show hopefully by next year. That's the goal. I did have a friend buy me a shirt to encourage us a Nina Simone shirt to keep encouraging us to keep building the show, hopefully by next year, hopefully. So hopefully it'll be on its feet for reals in 2022, because that's in 3 months.
So does she play does she play the keys in the piece?
No, not in this one. So it's like she's about to play, but it's mostly a cappella singing. So it's like she's about to play, or she does play, but it was for virtual. So we had the music play.
Right.
So that means I have to relearn to play the piano, but I know I will never master the piano like Nina Simone. She was literally a child prodigy. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was at 3. I mean, she grew up in a musical house. Her home life was really good. They did grow poor because of the Great Depression. Her dad was sickly, so they bonded a lot. She changes her name because her mother was a Methodist minister, and she changed her name because she didn't want her mom to know that she was playing jazz in the clubs or everything. So that's where Nina Simone comes from. She talks about how even as a child, she felt lonely because she was this child prodigy playing classical music. Can't really talk about classical music to black folks, and really can't talk about classical music to white folks, except to your music teachers. So she was just in this in-between world. And then and her journey is absolutely wonderful, because it's interesting, her take on racism, the joke. She calls racism a joke because it is a joke, a terrible, terrible joke. She said she didn't really think, she knew it was out there, because where she was in North Carolina, it really wasn't, I mean, they practiced it, but it wasn't, the town was behind her, Black and white. Like, they raised money. Her piano teachers were white, the teachers that encouraged her, they were white. So she was brought up in a very, in a seemingly integrated world, but it was very segregated. And she didn't think segregation, oddly enough, didn't affect her until she tried to go to the school in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, the Curtis Institute. and as she was working with her own lessons and everything with her piano teacher up in Philadelphia, they were like, no, you didn't get in because you were Black. Because she was shocked that she didn't get in, because she knew she would get in because she was brilliant. And the more she realized, she was like, oh, okay, I see now. I get it. I get it. It does. It is very, yeah. And it changed, and that changed the whole course of her career, because she was at Carnegie playing jazz and everything, but she wanted so much to be at Carnegie playing classical music. So, and she did not take her music success the first, because she has, like, in my head, 3 tiers. And her first success, she doesn't think about it. She doesn't think that she's that, she doesn't care that she's successful. Everyone's going crazy over all the pop music that she plays, because they didn't know how to label her, because she's a classical pianist playing pop songs in her own arrangement. So she would play, like Sea Lion Woman is like a child song, and she played that as if it in her own arrangement. And she was like, these people are going crazy. It was like beneath her, until she did the civil rights. She got involved in civil rights and SNCC. And she didn't realize how powerful her music was until she would go talk to young SNCC kids, and they had her records. And then she was like, oh, okay. And it gave her meaning. And and that's, I think, the more second tier, the more the Nina Simone that we all know, the civil rights activist. And she took that very seriously, because her music was fueling them, and she didn't realize it until she got to know them. And she was like, okay, yeah. That was she did not regret that. She had some regrets, but that, getting involved, singing Mississippi Goddamn, those, even though it may have hurt her career later on, no regrets. Yeah. She's a cool woman, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have another project coming up, Raising the Dead.
Yes, with Essential Theater. That's coming up in early November 5th through the 21st. It's a 2-woman show. It's a great piece. I got the script when I was on vacation in Jersey, visiting my grandparents, visiting friends in New York and everything. And my family and friends are fine in Jersey, New York. I just checked in on them. And I read the first lines of the character that I'm now going to play, Harlow. And the first lines in the play, the first lines is, check the date. This is what a free woman looks like. I am emancipated. And I'm gonna do that play. I was. And it's a story of 2 women who are friends, and one's about to start a whole new life, and the other one doesn't want her to go, and she's like, well, come on, girl. And we're dealing with loneliness and isolation, friendship, and daring to do something new in later years, because when you're a woman in your 40s and older, you get kind of like, I don't know, should I do this? And it's like, now or never. So I can't wait to actually do it. It's directed by Ellen McQueen. So I'm excited. I'm kind of really excited. I'm really excited about this little play I'm about to do, The Essential. Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like the pandemic has slowed you down.
I did a lot of I'm Zoomed played out. I have done my fair of Zoom readings. I am zoomed out, but I'm very grateful for those Zoom play readings. I have, since June of last year, I have zoomed. I think the only live thing I did last year was a project I did with 7 Stages called Tit, which was a loosely based off of Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus. and it's a beautiful like musical album that we kind of put together. It was really beautiful. And so that was the big thing that I did last year. And then I did mostly readings, and I got to direct my first Zoom reading play with Essential, Abraham Johnson's play that I actually did early that summer that I got to direct in November, Dead Gay Body, which is a really fun comedy, also dealing with dealing with inclusion and all that, all the good stuff, and it was, so I have not stopped, which is fine with me, but I'm ready to get back on stage.
So how do you like directing?
I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it. I patted myself on the back with the casting, and but I really did enjoy directing. I think I don't direct a lot. It's very far and few in between. But I had a good time. I'm always shocked of the visions and ideas that pop into my head as a director, and how I want the story to be told, and understanding the comic timing, especially for this play, and and I think as an actor, directing other actors is way easier, I think, because you know how to communicate with actors. You know what you want. You know if they're not getting it, and you're like, and you know where they're not getting it, and you can speak very specifically to where this is what I meant. This is what I blah blah blah. And so it's fun. I enjoyed it. So yeah.
Do you write as well?
I do not.
Oh, that's right, because you sent it over to McIntyre. Okay.
Yes, I did, because I am not a writer. I've tried to write, and I'm like, yeah, that's what. No, I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm not a writer. Some people are like, you can do it all. I'm like, I don't write.
Not a writer. Not a writer. Yeah.
I'm not a writer. I'll act it. I'll read it. I'm not gonna write it.
See, I'm not a writer either. No.
Yeah.
It's like I can, when we do devised pieces, I can help guide you through it as we put it together. But
no, I'm not a writer. No, ma'am.
So if you were not an actor, obviously you would not be a lawyer, because that's not what you wanted to do. What would you do?
I'll probably be a history teacher, a history professor. I love history. I started this thing almost 7-8 years ago on my Facebook by myself during Black History Month, called Rare Black Facts. Like, it's kind of loosely based off of Tom Joyner's Little Black History Facts every day he used to do on his show on the radio. Because I got tired. Parris got tired of hearing about the same Black folks every February, same Black things that happen every February. And I'm like, I know for a fact there's a lot more Black things going on in this country and in this world than the same 5 things. So I decided for myself to educate. It was for myself to go, hey, did you guys know this little rare Black fact, or this little rare Black fact, or this? So it became a thing every February. And then people were like, yes, it's February. Parris is going to do rare Black facts. But then I stopped, because I was like, are you guys learning also for yourself? Like, are you guys going out and doing your own little rare Black facts? And so I was like, I kind of stopped, because I was like, I don't want people just eating at my table and just leaving and not doing anything for themselves. I started it for myself and I ended it, but I keep learning for myself. So I would be a history teacher. I love history. It's important to know history. I mean, well, I feel like we're in a boomerang now. So and also to know for yourself, like I took I remember one of the history classes that really changed my outlook on history in college was investigate like a research history, and you would gut all the guts, all the pedestals that we put people on or events on, and you knock that stuff off the pedestals, and you find the real truth. And like people now are like, did you know this really didn't happen? It's like, yeah, once you knock that crap off its pedestal, you'll see that they're regular people. Somebody was telling a lie. Oh, that was the big lie. My favorite era, I would believe it or not teach, would be Civil War, because I think it's very interesting, that whole era, because I do remember in elementary school teachers saying, oh, was it about slavery at first? It really was about states' rights, and then it became about slavery. But the more you do your own history, because the truth is, it's right there. The more you do your history, the more you realize that's a lie, because slavery was the issue constantly. It's like, abortion or now the election. It was that for what, 1800s, 1700s until what, forever now. I mean, that was the issue. Even when we gained more territories, that was the issue. That was the issue. And it's like, how could that not be the main reason for the war? And then you realize, oh, Daughters of the Confederacy made sure that's the story. That's the big lie that we're going to tell. So, if someone was to ask us why we fought the war, we're going to say for our livelihood, for our states' rights, for our, blah, blah. But that was the lie. Because what do most people, I love the Daily Show because they say I love it when they has these people on repeat. So, oh, it's not racism, it's our history. It's not racism, it's our history on the battle flag. And you're like, man, they're being bamboozled too. Like they've been drinking the Kool-Aid, they don't even realize that they've been fed lies too. And it's like, man, everybody's been lied to. So
yeah, I think they really do believe that.
They really do.
Some know otherwise. Some know otherwise, but people really do believe.
They really do. I did have a friend who had the audacity to put it on her car, and she's like, "Let's go for a ride." I was like, "What the bleepity blop 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 is this?" And she was like, "It's not racism, it's history." I spat on it. God, what are you saying? So that's the crock that they've been fed, and it's incredible because we Black folks, we're just like, what? No, no. But it runs deep. It's like, wow, this runs deep. Yeah, and I think that's why there's so much pushback, because it's like, if everything that we were taught and believed is not true, then where does that leave me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been fed this crap for generations. You've been told this, you've been shown this, you live it, you watch your elders grow up and do it, and you hear it is what it is. So all of a sudden, the universe is finally allowing the truth to finally explode and say all of that is a lie, and that's not true. And then you have people going, well, then if that's not true, then what does that mean about me? And that's a complex, and that's the last thing they have to hold on to. Like it's this power. It's like, if this power is all a facade, what does that make me? It's like, makes you like the rest of us people on the earth. You're not that special. Sorry. Yeah. They don't want to really face the real reality. It's like, how could you not know? Like, and that's what's interesting about George Floyd. It's like that for us. We were like, this has always been going on, but it took George Floyd for you to go, did you know this? I'm pissed. I can't believe this. What? And then Black people are like, yeah, since our grandparents, we've been saying this. but you've been telling us it's our imagination, or they gaslight it, and they're not just gaslighting us. It was like they're gaslighting themselves, because it's like, no, that can't happen because it doesn't happen to me. So no, that can't happen. Not to my Black friend, no. And so it's like, no, it's been happening,
It's been happening. It's still happening.
It's still happening.
And unfortunately, it will probably continue to happen.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
When will it end?
That's why history is important. Like, when will it end, until people really get real, and honest, and it's them. I realized that I've been listening to Toni Morrison, like her documentary on Hulu. It's really good, but it's like she finally, and it clicked. The lights clicked on, and I went, yeah, it's not we're not the problem. They have the problem, so they have to fix it. Don't come over here saying, what should we do? It's like, you know what to do. You see it's happening right now. It's like, you know what to do. You have the power. They have the power, I should say. They have the power to. They have it. They have to fix this. They have to get real. They have to be honest. They have to admit that things have happened in the past. They have to admit that not them individually did it, but the tribe that they're coming from has done it, because they believe in individualism, but then they don't, because they go, not me, but it's like, no, not you, but like, I'm not a slave either, but I come from a people that were enslaved. Like, maybe not you personally, but you come from a people that has enslaved, or has done Jim Crow isms, or has been able to prosper from an oppressed people. So maybe not you individually, but you have, or your family or friends, or you don't, it doesn't matter. You are prospering off of someone else's backs. So you have to admit that, unless it's like, until they fully admit collectively and fully deal honestly with each other, and fully be and have conversations, and like in South Africa, where they had a period of reconciliation, like for real, like address that this has happened, this is happening, this is real, this has always been in the land. But if you have minorities saying this is happening, and then you have the majority saying no, that never happened, or no, not me, then it will never really get it. We'll constantly be spinning our wheels. It'll be year 3000, and the people in the year 3000 be like, I can't believe this. This is the year 3000, and we're still having to do this crap. Yeah. Until it's like the universe is like, until you get it right, I'm gonna keep doing it and put it in new clothes until you get it right. And it's like, we're never getting out of this.
Well,
so that's my take.
If they believe it's history and not racism, then they're going to fight for history. I mean, they might not fight for racism, but they're going to fight for history.
Oh yeah, yes.
And you can't take away their history,
right?
And some people don't, because they drank the Kool-Aid. Some people don't even realize it.
They don't.
And
they
so
don't.
That's where the systemic, that's where that racism comes from, because you talk to somebody who's so sweet, and they are totally clueless that they are racist or prejudiced, whichever one,
Mm-hmm.
So they're totally clueless, because in their hearts, that's not what they see.
Right.
They really their soul, deep in their soul, embedded in there.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like, and you just kind of learn how to navigate around. It's like, that's just who they. And what's sad is, like, they're not going to change, because they don't, like you just said, they don't really honestly don't realize.
Yes, we all live in this world, and we all experience a lot of the same surface things, but underneath, we're not treated the same. it's just across the board. We're just not an equal opportunity.
Mhm.
And part of it's, people who look like you. I know that people that look like me, I want to give a better chance, um, if there's two people that are equally set for the job. And I'm like, maybe if their personalities are the same and they're equally qualified and there's, everything, if everything is equal, I'm going to lean toward the Black female.
Me too.
I have to be honest.
I have to, because most of the time I know a sister gonna get it done. I always feel I don't know harm to nobody else. But when I see a sister working, if I see a fellow Black woman working, I'm like, okay, everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be right. I'm not gonna have to ask that question 3 more times. She's gonna have it and then some.
In one word or phrase, what do we need to move forward in the theater community in particular, but in life?
Truth.
I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you've joined us today, I would invite you to comment below, subscribe, and like us, and come back next time when we'll have another fabulous conversation. And meanwhile, keep the conversations going.
Let's have a heart-to-heart. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a heart-to-heart. Let's have a consultation. Let's have a heart-to-heart. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a heart-to-heart. Let's have a consultation. On the